you're thinking about things to make coming back to the campus more exciting and maybe more attractive.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you guys are doing, or what kinds of things are you hearing from employees that they're excited about, other than seeing people that they're excited about coming back to campus for?
Food. That is the number. It's the most bizarre thing. So we keep, as I said, we tend to love feedback. So we do lots of surveys of what would bring more employees back, other than the health and safety. And so what would make the campus more welcoming, other than, so there was health and safety, and then there was masks, which, certainly Washington State, we're right on the precipice of that not having to be part of when you're vaccinated. But then there was having other people there. So how can you get other people to come in at the same time or on the same day or something? And then it was food.
Yeah.
And then getting around campus. We have a lot of, and then commuting in, there's, we have different buses that take people, and so people want that. They want movement, and they want really good food back. So I don't know, what were your guys' tops?
I mean, for us, that's been one of the things. In fact, we were talking beforehand, we did this huge renovation of our campus, and quite honestly, we didn't have great amenities here beforehand. Now we have something like 10 restaurants, and we have a Starbucks on campus, and so I think that's been really attractive.
Yeah.
But maybe one of the most popular things, and we'll give you this idea for free, is we opened a bar.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's going to start happening. Yeah. It's Friday beer kind of Fridays, like sort of throwback in tech. So.
Yeah. So we literally have a bar upstairs.
That's awesome.
It's named Sidekicks, which actually is a connection between our companies, because Danger was a company that you guys bought, and we were the ones that exclusively launched it. But the bar pays tribute to Sidekick, and
that's
we
awesome.
actually have a bar that just opened, I think, 2 days ago.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, we might steal that idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think people want to also come together. I just did something for my org last weekend, just outside, and they want to come together and see each other and remember what that feels like. There's something about the lived experience you need to experience going to the office, okay? Remembering what your commute felt like, remembering what it felt like to connect in person, remembering what it like to, eat from a salad bar that I didn't have to make. Those are all super awesome things.
Obviously, you're leading this effort for one of the biggest companies in the entire world. But there's lots of companies that are in various stages of planning their, return to office or their hybrid model. Like, what are some of the pieces of advice that you would give somebody in your position for another company as they are going through this planning process for how they're going to execute this at their company?
Yeah, the horizontal part of this work is huge. I mean, I've never worked with real estate and facilities as much as I have in this time. Is how do we, how do we get people home? Set up their home offices. What do they do with their stuff in their office? That was sort of all COVID, sending everybody home. And then how do we make an office of the future that people are excited about and want to be around and want to be part of? And then also making them hybrid. So like I said, cameras. We've realized that the conference room in America has been set up for people sitting together. And so how do we actually make it so if you're in another place, you feel like you're part of it? So that would be my number one advice, is to look at how you work and then start to deconstruct that and work with your partners. I mean, there's a huge tech part of this, a huge HR part of this, a huge legal part of this, and then a ton on real estate and facilities. It's been super, it's super fun to work across rather than sort of working in your silo. So. That would, and then, sort of having inclusion at the core of everything has been super important. Inclusion at the core of how we're thinking about meetings, how we're thinking about bringing people back, how we're thinking about the future. That was super important during this. And, looking at acute communities, families have had a harder time with kids and homeschooling. There's certainly a lot of acute communities that have felt have suffered more or have had more difficulty during these times. So certainly addressing those and seeing how we can help those people more as we return to work. But, I have this, like I said, this sort of very long list of sort of our HR game changers and our hybrid workbook that we're sharing with everyone. So that's the other thing, is it sort of transcends competition, is how do we all share our ideas on how we do this to get people back to work and to get the economy back up and thriving. So that's how I'm thinking about it, is I'm on the phone trying to connect with people saying, how are you thinking about this? And so experimentation and sharing is super important too.
Yeah. I mean, it's so nice to hear that, especially because you guys are such a huge part of the community.
As are you.
Yeah, and if this isn't successful at Microsoft, this this entire community suffers. So
Yeah.
it's so great to hear that it's been a collaborative approach. You mentioned earlier, kind of going back to your inclusion points, but you mentioned how much of the decision process has been inspired by employee feedback. What were the tools and mechanisms that you used to collect feedback from employees?
Yeah, I think we used our daily pulse, which I think I mentioned. It's 2,500. It goes out to 2,500 employees every day. It's a random selection, and we asked, we asked them the same questions so we can start to get some themes and some ideas. And then there's a lot of other ways for employees to give feedback. And so we try to bring together listening systems, both outside. We look at our internal tools like Yammer. We look at Twitter. We try to get where employees and their sentiment is. So. A good example of us making that happen was around the families. I think we were addressing, especially women and families, saying, okay, here is some opportunities for some time off. So we instituted pandemic leave. You guys might have done something similar, but we realized we weren't listening hard because there was a lot of women that didn't want time off. They just wanted more help and support to be able to work. And so what we did is we kept that pandemic leave, but then we instituted tutoring and online schooling and places where you could safely drop your kids off to try to help. And it's both women and men, obviously, but we heard a lot more from the women about caregiving. How can we make caregiving part of our strategic priorities so we can hear from them about what is it that they need to, if they want to be working, how can we help them work? So we pivoted some of that to help them. And we didn't always, we used some of our platform to negotiate. We didn't go figure everything out. We just, used our relationships and said to other people and places, hey, how are you thinking about childcare and pandemic pods and online tutoring, in-person tutoring, and try to just, get that all together. So then as a parent or as a caregiver of maybe a parent, you could have a little package and say, okay, here's some choices that I have to, and the company's helped here.
Yeah, and will that continue? Post?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we'll keep in place, and then there's some things that will sunset. We've instituted some well-being days. We're getting a lot of employee feedback to keep those coming. They feel a little bit different than, I don't know if you guys do vacation or paid time off, but I think we're kind of deciding now, what sunsets in September, what sunsets next year, what have we learned, what can we do differently, because I think we learned a lot from our employee base this year.
Yeah, especially that last issue, because I know that was one of the biggest challenges for our employees too, when you're simultaneously trying to do your job and be a teacher.
Yep.
And I know I was telling you earlier, I have a 4-year-old son who made a lot of cameo video appearances this year.
Yeah.
And he's super cute, but it also can be hard and distracting and everything else. So
I have some famous golden retrievers now, yes, and teenagers that needed the car keys and money and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the one nice thing, I won't say a nice thing, but the one kind of interesting thing about COVID is I do think it will be probably the only time in our lives, hopefully the only time in our lives, where we're all in the entire world simultaneously going through the same thing. And so there's an empathy that you can have for everybody in these situations because everybody's going through the exact same thing.
It is amazing to think about at the same time sort of how the globe reacted. But yeah, it does build some empathy for, I think we built a lot of empathy at the leader level for what you're talking about is how do you teach kids and work at the same time? How do you have a two-income family that maybe both of them are frontline workers? There's a lot that we've learned and that we can help people more. I think both your company and mine can certainly help with that effort. So yeah.
So we have a tradition here where we
boy.
end these with a set of rapid fire questions.
Okay, we do these first at Microsoft.
Oh, do
we
you
warm
first?
up with these,
Okay,
so you close with them.
Well, we wanted to make sure we got to all the good stuff
Okay,
first,
all right, got it. Okay.
So if you don't mind playing around,
Okay, I
we
will.
have some rapid fire questions. Talking or texting?
Oh goodness, texting.
Okay.
I have voicemails that are 100 years old on my phone that I still haven't listened to.
Well, you also have 4 teenagers, so
I know, right.
I don't know if your teenagers are the
Snapchatting.
same way, but my kids literally don't know how to answer. They have zero phone etiquette. They literally can't answer a phone.
I know.
I was like, you're supposed to say hello when I say.
They hand you the phone. The panic. Yeah. So we got to teach them that, I suppose.